Welcome, I'm Tim Kyle. We're here at the Lone Oak Barn in Round Rock, Texas. I'm a wedding photographer and I'm joined by
Bri Mouton, CPCE with Beautiful Moments Events.
And today we really just want to talk about planning your wedding day, the importance of having a professional wedding planner. So I'm a wedding photographer, and a lot of times, a lot of weddings don't have a professional wedding planner. They'll use a coordinator the day of, or Aunt May or Uncle Tom or the mom or something like that is going to be running the show the day of. And what ends up happening is I get stuck planning the wedding and answering emails, trying to handle the coordinating the day, and it causes a lot of problems. And so I always recommend the brides who do consults with me, get a private wedding coordinator.
It can be a wide range of things. Planners can help from day one, right after the engagement, to find venues, to find the caterer, to do menu tastings, to find the photographer,
right. Yeah.
all the way up to just day of coordination and planning timelines and being there to greet folks. I think the biggest thing that a planner, as you talked about with all these different elements, is to relieve that stress.
Right.
So while you're getting ready, you don't have to worry that Grandpa Al hasn't shown up yet, and
Sure.
who's pinning the boutonnieres on, and is the
Right.
photographer getting pictures of the venue, or of the flower girl. So really it can be
Right.
that person that takes away all that stress and helps coordinate everything.
Right. And you mentioned taking that stress away from the bride, and it also takes stress away from the photographer or the mom who's supposed to be in the wedding, and supposed to walk down the aisle and be involved. And it allows me as a photographer to let loose, know that there's a third party objective person who's handling everything, handling disputes and things that arise and the inevitable issues that pop up when Uncle Joe shows up late and he needs to get his flower pinned and all these things. Me as the photographer, I can relax, focus on photography, and in the end I'm going to create a better album. So yeah.
I think some of the things that come down to us being partners in producing a good event for you and wedding is that we're not going to see your family again, and you are. And so we can be that person that comes up with creative solutions and helps, something's not looking just right. We can be there to step in and take care of that. We've seen a lot of things. We've worked with a lot of different people. We've talked to a lot of industry professionals that have been in similar situations to get feedback on how to best address some of those things.
When it comes to the pre-planning, prior to the day of, I get asked a lot of questions about scheduling. And what do you recommend as far as time to allot for photography for different things throughout the day? What are just some rule of thumbs?
So I think a lot of it depends on where the group is getting ready. Is the bride getting ready on site? Is she's going to be at a church and then they're going to a ceremony site? Because that's going to make a lot of difference for travel time. Photographers, is there one photographer? Is there two? So typically what we'll want to do if a bride and, if a couple wants to go ahead and do pictures before the ceremony and get them all out of the way, we want to plan at least an hour, hour and a half. Maybe that includes a first look, depends again on if they're on site or not. If it's after the ceremony, it's going to take a little bit more time because you have more distractions. Your guests are already here, family's already getting drinks at the bar, we're having to run and grab them to bring them over to the photographer. So a little bit more time afterwards, you can still kind of capture a lot of that, I think, within that hour and a half. But having that timeline and working with the photographer to let them know certain elements, first dance, father-daughter dance, speeches, we can really help get those important elements in a timely manner.
Right. And that's, the pre-planning, which is so important, which in a lot of times as a photographer, I don't mind answering these emails, but at the same time, I cannot be there on the day of to make this stuff happen. So, we talk about being kind of a third party, someone who's not a family member, who's not necessarily your friend, who's friendly, but not necessarily you're a friend. What are some common things that happen that delay weddings, that, cause scheduling conflicts on the day of, that, wedding planners are excellent or great at, solving and being there?
Sure. I think one of the biggest thing is the getting ready. Even with hair and makeup, we all plan. Girls usually start super early at 7, even 8 o'clock.
And the guys are like, 10 minutes, throw on their jacket.
They're showing up an hour before. They're still watching football or basketball. So that really can determine everything else. I know a good rule of thumb that I follow is, whatever happens during that morning time, as long as the ceremony starts, we can really, on time, everything else can alter. Food really is set to go at certain times because of cooking, but it's just to be really flexible. And I think as a planner, talking with my couple, talking with the vendor, saying, hey, this is all flexible. We are just going to go how the night takes us. If things come up that maybe we need to cut out, we'll talk to, we designate a person that's kind of our point person day of that maybe isn't the bride. And then just communicating that with the photographer to say, okay, we're going to go right into this. We're going to cut this short. Right. Really looking at maybe some downtime where if there's assigned seating and folks need to find their tables, that might take about 10 minutes. So why don't we cut our cake during that time, get the key people there to see that. Right. While there's transition going on, instead of waiting for everyone to set and get ready and do that. So there's a couple tricks in there.
You say things like just get the key people to do that. Like that in of itself is like a nightmare from a photography standpoint, because I'm supposed to be taking photos, and if I'm having to wrangle and first of all knowing who the key people are, finding these people, if they're drinking or they're outside, they're inside, they're in the bathroom, they're all wearing the same thing, from the guys, and so me having to do that plus take the photos and keep everything lined up, and I may have a second photographer that I'm managing or who's doing something else, and it just turns into you lose 10 minutes here, you lose 15 minutes there, and it just starts adding up over time. Is kind of the things that I've noticed, and having that wedding planner there who is their job to make these things happen, it really smooths things over. So awesome.
And I think with that too is, throughout the process as a planner, we may be talking to the couple a little bit longer and figuring out, hey, what are some things that they definitely want pictures of? What key friends do they want to get together? And we picked up on those, so we're able to pass those on to the photographers and really help them say, hey, here are key people to watch, or stand over here a little bit more. And
it is all those little things that add up over time. Certainly,
So Tim, tell me how someone should go about choosing a wedding photographer.
Right, I mean, just like wedding planners, wedding photographers are with you for a long time. They're going to be with you, when you arrive at the venue all the way until you leave. So it's really important that, you just jive with their personality, that you guys just kind of have the same view on things. And then of course, you've got to look at their portfolio. They have to have a style that resonates with you. And what I always recommend to people is to look at the photos that the photographer puts on, the highlights on the front of their webpage or in, the featured blogs. And generally, what they're really proud of in the way that they edit is pretty much what you're going to get. What I see a lot is I'll see somebody who gets recommended to a photographer, and then they will recommend or they will ask the photographer to edit things in a specific way that's really not what the photographer does typically, or shoot certain types of photos that aren't on their portfolio. And so what you're basically doing is having the photographer do something that they're not very good at. So my biggest recommendation is of course, price. You need to find somebody who's in your price range. Find somebody who shoots the photos that resonate with you, and then of course their personality is someone that you can get along with, someone who's going to be fun to have at your wedding. So and
I'd agree with that. There's some pretty intimate moments that take place, so you definitely want to feel comfortable and relaxed. Definitely your natural self, not so stiff and poised when you're with your photographer.
And then similarly, what should you look for when you're looking for a wedding planner? And kind of tell me a little bit about your business and your style.
It all goes with jiving. No matter what business is in, we buy products or we work with people because of the people. They could be selling a toothbrush, but you could love them, and that's why you buy that toothbrush. So for me, I am a very creative person. So I like being a part of, not necessarily from the beginning, but I can give you ideas and input for you to go on your own. I like for the unique and different, but I like for there to be some surprises, whether it's the bride planning for the groom or for the family. I think any of those little hints or little teasers in there are really fun and make it a special day. I like to do things that are unique. So again, just kind of going back to that creativity, but I'm really there to help any couple make it a fun day, be fun, be different. And it's all full of moments. And, you know, I think going back to photography, he's capturing your moments and I'm there to help him make them beautiful too.
And speaking of that, you know, some photographers are more documentary style where you don't see a whole lot of posed photos. It is very candid of nature. And then some photographers really like to showcase and really like to post every single photo that's on their website and in the album. And so that's also something that's, you know, that you want to look for. And then, you know, your wedding planner can help add to that and, you know, reinforce, you know, that style and feel of the day.
And what's your style? What do you love about couples photography? So
I guess what really gets me excited when I'm there on the day of and when I'm editing is capturing moments that are happening very, very quickly. You know, capturing that moment, you know, one of my favorite moments is almost at every single wedding is when the bride and groom get married, and usually they have some kind of exit or a processional or something soon after. The look, when they first look at each other, and, you know, for the first time after all of that, when all the people are gone, and they look over at each other and they have that first look that when they're husband and wife, that is like, I live for capturing that moment. And so that's exciting for me. It's challenging. You know, there's a lot of challenges involved in getting the shot. It only happens really quickly. And so those are the kind of things that drive me, you know. And then outside of that is really setting up gorgeous shots that are, you know, almost fine art that'll be on your wall. You know, very, very sculpted, spend a lot of time with lighting. I like using off-camera flash and, you know, umbrellas and all kinds of things. And I like setting up that and creating artwork for you to remember your day. So those are the two kind of things. They're actually very different, but those are the kind of two things that really drive me. So yeah. Awesome.
I would probably say, you know, the other thing to add between vendor partnerships is that we can do a lot of the legwork ahead of time. We've worked with the photographers, we know their style, we know how they work within an event, and how we work with them as a planner, that we can take a lot of your guesswork out of, is this photographer going to be good for me? We can give you that recommendation. We know their quality of work, we know their personalities, we know what style they like to shoot. It really can take a lot of guessing out of the game. We know that there's many photographers out there, and having, you know, this partnership through your planner that can recommend vendors and photographers really is going to make a difference with your selections and the time it is to find someone.
Yeah, and you know, and likewise, I always like to contact the wedding planner prior to the event, go over the schedule, you know, go over things that might be issues, timing, you know, introduce myself if I haven't worked with them before. And all of these things, it's just going to make your day more seamless. You're going to get better photos. You're going to have better time. You're going to have less stress. And it's just going to be a day that you're going to want to remember for the rest of your life. So yeah. And so Bri, thank you so much for coming out here. Do you have any, you know, like tips or something you want to throw out there? Is just kind of a quick tip for those brides out there that are kind of stressing, trying to plan their day. Anything that you can offer them, you know, to bring that blood pressure down just a little bit?
I think the one thing that comes to mind that I know a lot of couples go back and forth on and whether to do or not is assigned seating and escort cards. It's a lot of work on the front end to get all those names together, but on the back end, it is such a time saver, a stress saver. You're not having guests wandering around and a couple being split up because there's only one chair left at a table. Folks aren't rushing in after the cocktail hour. Maybe pictures are still being taken. So I would highly recommend to consider it. And most planners have some charts that they can give you to help organize that, but it really can be a stress saver and a time saver.
Yeah, and like as a guest, you know, just having a place to sit and not having the stress of like picking, oh, do I have to sit next to grandma or do I sit next to my friends?
Or who
these
am
kinds
I
of
sitting
things.
next to?
Yeah, I mean, there are
conversations.
some pros and cons there, but overall, I kind of like it as a guest when I'm attending a wedding. So.
And I think the nice thing about that too, when it comes back to pictures, is that the photographer can go around and really capture each table, and those people know each other and want to be in that picture.
Sure.
So it's really something that they can take away from the wedding after, knowing that they're going to have their table pictures and families or groups of friends together. So it helps with that as well, knowing that you're going to get pictures of everybody.
Bri, thank you so much for coming out here and doing this with me. I encourage you to go down in the description box, and I've got links to her website, to my website, and the Lone Oak Barn, the venue that we're at here today. And just consider getting a professional wedding planner for your day. I know that it is another expense, but it's one of these things you're only gonna get married once. You're gonna want to remember this day for the rest of your life, and it's just an extra thing that's really gonna make your day that much better. So anyway, yeah.
And don't forget to check out Tim.
Yeah.
And his gorgeous picture.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Bri Mouton of Beautiful Moments, Weddings, and Events, and our host, the Lone Oak Barn.